Austria-Hungary before World War I was a state dominated by its massive internal political and ethnic divisions, although by 1914 it had undergone an industrial expansion. The once feudal empire had experienced the process of modernization. But only 4 years later, this empire was dissolved because of the external pressures of war and internal unrest. Kanye West is one of the most critically lauded artists of the 21st century, so naturally one comes to wonder, could Kanye West, if he were hypothetically given power in the Austro-Hungarian government, save the empire from total and complete collapse?
Yo, Wilhelm II.
I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish.
But Franz Joseph I had one of the best reigns of all time.
For the purposes of our scenario, we're going to take Kanye as he was September 12th, 2007, the day after releasing his third studio album, Graduation. We're also going to assume that Kanye isn't allowed to stuff his pockets with 21st century military technology. Instead, we're going to assume that all he brings with him to 1914 is his album Graduation and maybe a couple hundred CD players with enough battery life for the war. Everything else leading up to the conflict plays out the same as it did in our timeline. And Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia 1 month after Franz Ferdinand is assassinated. And now that the rules and the context is laid out, we can use historical analysis to see if Kanye can impact the timeline. Before he can try to save Austria-Hungary, Kanye's main challenge would be just communicating with people, because he doesn't speak any one of the 14 official languages of Austria-Hungary. Even if we're generous and interpret this line from Graduation literally, where he says, "I shop so much I can speak Italian," he's still going to have an extremely hard time commanding troops or organizing the government. And he's also...
Yeah, sure, it's the language barrier, and not the fact that he's black, and vagrant fucking racism. Like, what the fuck? The fucking language barrier. What?
Also a black man in a time when people of color were subjected to a world of European empires, propagating ideas of racial hierarchy. So, despite the fact that I found this picture of a black Austrian soldier, he'd still probably be discriminated against by those around him. So at the outset of the war, Kanye would be too busy dealing with these first problems to meaningfully help in the initial fighting. And just like in real life, the first Austro-Hungarian campaign into Serbia would end as an embarrassing failure for the Central Powers. It's a similar story in the East, as the Russians would successfully occupy Galicia just like they did in real life. But still, with time, I'm sure government officials could find enough English speakers, and I think that while Kanye would face discrimination, as his music is exposed to the diverse troops of the empire, they would gradually come to accept him as one of their own. His diverse discography of music would not only provide a morale boost, but it could actually act as a unifying force, bringing together the many different ethnicities fighting in the empire. With his newfound support and music
Hello,
as a
Forsen.
rallying point,
Advice
Kanye
friend
proves to the
here.
world that
I
the
think
new and improved
the dollars are
Austro-Hungarian
delayed
troops
by
are a
3
force to be
years,
reckoned with, and
which
could
is
lead
why
them
you
to a
keep
swift
getting
victory in
links
Serbia in
even
early
though you
1915,
allegedly said
innovating with
no
ping
more
pong
links.
artillery tactics,
Glad to
destroying
help.
the Serbian
Yes,
military, while
my
suffering
name
minimal
is
losses.
Serzu,
This
by
type
the
of
way.
victory would
I
shock the
see
world,
exactly
and it
what
would
Donald
inspire
said
Italy
already
to join
arrived
the
by the time
conflict
I
on the
said it.
side of the Central
Yeah.
Powers. This would leave Kanye time to get prepared to organize a counteroffensive on the Eastern Front. By 1916, Kanye reveals his brand new combat Yeezy boots, which act also as music players for the soldiers on the Eastern Front, and his initial counteroffensive into Russia breaks through the defensive lines, allowing Austria-Hungary to reach as far as Ukraine and Belarus. However, as the months of 1916 drag on, the offensive slows down, initially because of logistical problems, but it also becomes clear that the new Yeezy boots have many design flaws and clearly weren't made considering the Russian weather. Many troops would die of frostbite, and the new music being released to the soldiers playing on the Yeezy boots is unfinished, and it's not as good as his old projects.
Jesus Christ. Sudden thing for 3 years is no message, of course. Quote unquote. Maximilian Krieg, Cowley, and Eozel. Thank you, boys. Welcome back.